にちは皆さん、テリチャンネルのテリです。いつも動画を見てくれてありがとう。今日は久しぶりにジョージアに、そして首都のトビリシに帰ってきて、私が感じしたことについて話したいと思います。まず私の国にたくさんロシア人がいることは前にも話したと思いますが、この状況はまだ変わっていません。パーシュモビリゼーションが出されたことで、これからもっと多くなっていくと思います。エストニアやフィンランド、ポーランドなどヨーロッパの国やたくさん国がロシア人にビザを出さなくなったり、国に入れることができませんので、その結果ジョージアにたくさんやってきます。私の国はロシアとダイレクトフライトがありませんが、トルコや陸路から入れることができるので、そんなに難しくありません。パーシャルモビリゼーションが出た日、ジョージアとロシアのボーダーに10キロの状態ができました。そして Some people said that they were waiting 10 hours to cross the border。これはとてもやばいことの意味です。もちろんジョージアの政府はウクライナを支持しています。そしてこの街を歩けばわかるように多くなウクライナの国旗が見ることができます。しかし私の国はロシア人にとって住みやすいの国の一つになっています。これはイエスと言えるし、ノーとも言えると思います。Georgia is not staying entirely without sanctions on Russia either. We stopped some trades from Russia and however we are doing same level of sanctions as European Union countries. But I have to say it's not enough. As I said in my previous videos, Georgia can't do strong sanctions on Russia because of our geographical situation.Many Russian came into Georgia can be very good for rich people or people who owns hotels or restaurants in Georgia. But for me and average families in Georgia, like my family, I can honestly say that it causes lots of negativities.Traffic in a capital city of Georgia, Tbilisi, is congested by a lot of Russians in Georgia. Many people are lining up to the bus stations to go to school or university or to work. But it takes forever until the bus will go to that bus station because of this all big traffics. Most of Russians are crossing the border by their own car, and this causes overpopulation in Tbilisi and creates lots of troubles as well. And also new studying year has started and Georgia opened universities for students because due to the COVID situation it was closed almost 1.5 years, but now it's open again. Because of all of this, I'm reading so much information in the social media that using transport gets very, very hard.例えば、ジョージアにはタクシーの使うことはとってもジョージア人にとって結構高いです。And most cheapest transportation in Georgia is a bus and a metro, so most of the people are using that. But these days, I saw even so much pictures that there is like a sea of the people there, and you can't even walk through there. And so many people are getting late to work, getting late to the university. Like we never had this situation, but now it's same as rush hour Tokyo metro here because like people have to push each other to go in the train. It's really very hard, and especially in Georgia we don't have so much lines to use different train to go on some place, and also like a road what you need to go on to A direction to B direction, and if it takes like 10 to 15 minutes because of all this traffic, now it takes almost like 1 hour to go there.Tbilisi is not a big city, and also most of the Russians coming in Georgia, they are preferring to stay in the Tbilisi and live here. I'm not saying that all this caused only from the Russians because traffics are happening because also that we have lots of constructions now and that is blocking roads as well. But it's like already there is not enough space for Georgians to live in our own country, you know, it's very hard really. Rent prices got doubled or tripled, and also living cost in Georgia is approximately doubled in the last 6 months. I don't want to say like that, but lots of Russians are looking down to Georgia because of our history and 2008 war there. Last month we had a stone thrown at my sister's birthday party from the Russian who was staying next hotel to us, and I think it was also done by someone who thinks this way. You can hear lots of Russian language from my country, and also Georgians speaking on Georgian. Go back to your country. You can see such a sense almost every day in Georgia. A Georgian personal trainer friend of mine has lots of Russian clients, and even though he understands the Russian language very well, he's still speaking with them with a Google translation because he doesn't want to speak on Russian. Maybe this might sound a little bit stupid for some people, but 20% of our country's territory is occupied by Russia, so there is many people who thinks this way. Also, one thing annoys me very much is that when I'm going outside, I don't know, do I really look like Russian that much? Because so many people, almost all of them, are trying to speak with me on the Russian, and even I'm telling something to them on Georgian and they can hear I say it on Georgian, they are still continuing speaking to Russian, and I'm like, I don't understand Russian, please speak to me Georgian. I don't look like a typical Georgian, I guess, and that's why it causes this much trouble for me. I really don't like someone speaking to me Russian. I just don't understand that language, and I want to speak in my country on my own language. Russia is keeping occupied Georgia's territory secretly. Georgians do not like the Russian government, and we are tired of seeing reality of Tbilisi. For example, living cost is getting high and people overcapacity. Ironically, the more European Union countries are doing sanctions on Russia, the more and more Russians are coming in my country, and our country's economy is getting better as well. So such a complicated situation is in Georgia now. Believe or not, now Georgian lari is stronger than US dollar, and US dollar is considered the strongest in the world. European Union decided that overland cargo transport through Russia is prohibited now. This increases geopolitical value of the Georgia as the only pipeline connecting European Union to the Central Asia and China. As you can see, the economy of my country ironically has been growing since beginning of the situation in Ukraine. But if you ask me if there is any good things for average citizens like me at this time, answer is no. Big no. For example, I would love to see lots of Japanese people in my country, but number of the Japanese living here seems to low in last 6 months. It may be related that living cost in Georgia has grown so much. Unfortunately, the situation in Georgia is so complicated that it is not often showing in mass media of Japan and other foreign countries. In my country, many people, especially young people, want to be part of European Union. But since the beginning of this war, Russians are a lot in my country, and sadly it seems that we are getting more closer to Russia than European Union. Of course, our government and some politicians are making an effort to create a good relationship with USA, European Union and Japan too. But it is true that people with the great power in our government has a strong ties to the Russia. Some people want to criticize Putin, Russian government and all the Russians as well, but people who think this way, I want them to think carefully again. I'm always saying that not all the Russians are like this, but if I've been Russian and born and raised there, in this situation I would definitely leave the country. I know, and I've seen many videos about it as well, that people really want to be against of Putin, Russian people, I mean, and many of them, but they are too scared to say something, because even they are trying to say something negative word about Putin or Russian government, they are immediately getting arrested and going into jail. So this situation is complicating their life as well. So that's why I want you to imagine that if you've been raised and born in Russia and you have a family there, how would you act at this time? What I have talked to you today is my personal opinion and how I think as a citizen of Georgia. But as a foreigner who visited Hiroshima, I strongly pray for a peace and the nuclear weapon to not be used in this war. いつも楽しい日本のビデオを見てくれる人、今日は違うビデオだったね。今日はジョージアに帰ってきた私の感想をシェアさせてもらいました。最後まで見てくれてありがとうございます。次のビデオでお会いしましょう。またねー。